Welcome to the Mysteries of the Feeling Realm, a podcast where we explore our relationship to this feeling body, to the vibrations and sensations that are constantly moving just beneath our awareness, that we have so much judgment of. We brace against them, we blend with them, we hide them, and we blame others for them, but mostly how these energies are profoundly misperceived. So join us, Cole and Lorella, as we explore what it might feel like to welcome every single drop of your experience in a relaxed and kind and deeply receptive body.
Hello everyone, this is Cole and Lorella here. We had a bit of a break because of many other things that are happening in this busy world. But finally we made it to the studio again. And we are delighted to sit across from each other. And we just made some sound to kind of drop in ourselves into the
feeling realm.
The feeling realm. Yeah. And so today we thought we addressed the idea of God in healing. Lorella just lit up. Her face just shape-shifted into this exquisite, radiant beam of light.
I have a radiant beam of light and a little tug in my belly at the same time, very aware. The mention of God can bring up so much resistance, so much judgment, so much reaction.
Yeah.
And I can feel the part of me that is sensing for how will people respond to the word God. Straight off the bat, how many people will we lose?
And how many we gain?
I like how you go there.
Yeah. Because, we could demystify a few things. Like I had such a long journey in this search where I was just watching this little clip of Carl Jung.
Yes.
And he's so cute. He's just sitting there and somebody asked him about you believe in God? And it's and he had this little pause. And he goes, no, I don't believe. I know. And it's yeah.
So let's go there.
Yeah, let's do that
one.
Let's
go there. Let's start with you. And what is God for you? What's your journey been?
I have the same answer. Knowing God, for me personally, it's this ignition of I believe that there is actually a fragment of God that lives me as me. I'm just a little fragment. And I've got the whole will of God, which is like an inheritance, like we get from our parents, get inheritance of some kind. Sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. And then we all got inheritance. When I tune into the gift that my father gave me, that's when my forgiveness occurred of my father, who I was processing and processing and processing. And one day I was doing this men's group, and I'm saying, okay, guys, this is what we're going to do tonight. It's we're going to tune into our Father, because, we got this Father. When it comes to God, the word Father comes with it. And so I went into this question of what was the gift that your father gave you? And my father was this Catholic. He was always parked at 9 o'clock. He was on his knees, bending over the bed with his hands in the prayer position and freaking spend like an hour in there. Yeah, I know.
Praying.
Freaking probably repeating like the scripture or some kind of prayers or whatever, and I saw that. I like never even saw him talking about it or anything, but that was his like ritual.
Beautiful.
And so when I asked man this question, I was also thinking, I've got 5 minutes. That was a set time. I said, might as well do it myself. I closed my eyes and go like, God, help me to see what was the gift that my father gave me. I don't believe in visions, but oh my God, my father appeared like this most exquisite light I have ever even, I couldn't even dream about it. I couldn't even imagine it. It was so new and it was so magnificent. And in that moment, I saw him as his soul, as his being, like this archangel, like absolutely beautiful. Like everything I would ever desire to inherit from, right? I was like, wow, that's my dad. And in that moment, I kind of hold my little grievances that he smacked my butt when I was little or didn't buy me some lollies or something, whatever the grievances we have with our parents, all went out of window.
Yeah.
And I went, wow, I've forgiven my dad. Because in that realization, I said, oh, this is in me somewhere. And suddenly that light inside just lit up. Like this inheritance. And it just took me even years to integrate that experience.
So just so I understand, because I love where we're going here. One is the inheritance from our parents, rather than this kind of like constant reviewing of how they've traumatized us. And God, two like really important aspects of me.
Yeah.
And so when you say that your father appeared, this kind of like this vision, radiant. What was the gift that, like, what did you receive? Like, what was the quality of the inheritance? Like, what you inherited from him?
Well, first of all, when Dad appeared, all the rest was gone. I could not hold a grievance against him. Like, everything got dislodged. I had nothing against him suddenly.
Right.
I was like, oh my God, what am I talking about here? I got this amazing gift and I live it. Like that gift lives me as well. But I took it to a different level than my dad did, for example.
So what I hear you saying is the gift is this gift of devotion, or this gift of like, really giving over.
Tangible, deeply felt God's presence. It's a presence.
And this devotion to actually like connect, like his like hourly ritual is like this ritual that this is so in your life. I mean, your life is devotional practice, pretty much, and just kind of like feeling into and connecting to God and connecting to feeling. But that's what it is.
That's what it is. And also when it comes to healing, let's say something comes up, I don't go and meet my collapsed self that's trying to heal something. I go, God, and what do we do now? How do we tackle this one? And I step back and I virtually let that light is a light of, it has healing in it, it has love in it, it has everything in it.
But it's a space you inhabit. It's a incredibly embodied experience that you rest into. Yeah.
And it's becoming like more and more my daily bread. It's just how I live from minute to minute most of the time. Sometimes I have trouble closing my eyes because as soon as I close them, this inner sanctum goes explodes within. I'm like, oh my God, am I ready for this intensity? It's for me, it's like not a walk in the park. It's like intense, radiant explosion within, right? And then...
oh, that's so nice. Let's just take that in for a moment.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
And let's say if I had a busy day and this light comes in, then there is like busy day from attention. If I had to concentrate on many things, I could not connect. If there was an overwhelm of very, very full day. And then when I catch up with myself, I'm like, hang on, let me come to myself. Then it takes a moment until those two integrate, until my density becomes softer and softer and softer until there's no density, there's no form as such. It's like a formless ooze. Yeah.
Such delight moving through my body, even your expression of that. It's just density, formlessness, resting into God, light, allowing those two to meet.
Yes, and your response, saying how that felt, gives me a further affirmation of that I'm not in my head tripping on some spiritual gaga, but is a tangible quality we all have. I think this fragment of God is in everyone. I think if that was turned off in people, I love watching atheists because they like, that's not going to prove it to me. I was like, man, if that was turned off for a second, you will have a proof.
Yeah. How can we deny, what is consciousness? Where do we come from? The whole experience. How could this...
so magnificent.
It's magnificent. It's magnificent. And it's incredible that we have such a... really, if you mention the word God, to from my experience, to most people, you get a freeze response. You get a really a tightening, a pushing back. That's been my experience of it. If I use the word God in my practices or in any little expression, people really notice it with a bit of a question mark or kind of oh God, where's she going?
Yeah, because we have these images of God that's just deadly, guilt-ridden,
punishing.
Oh God, and they're all false images.
They're really false.
They're all false images. When the real God, when you empty out all your mad ideas about God thing, and I'm not telling you what to do, but I do that. When I fully let go of all of my thoughts, including my childhood images of God, the first time somebody tells you God and you go what's that? As a child. And then they say, well, it's this invisible thing. You make an image of an invisible thing, and then you kind of traveling. It's that's what God is. But you made it as a child.
In a human form.
Because, they say God made us in his own image, but we made God in our own image. That's why it's so screwed.
That's why it's so screwed up.
It's fear God, yeah. You made him. You made him out of your sort of contraction and your
fear
and dogma and, whatever you read. I mean, and I like to say this too because I sometimes use a bit of a Christian terminology.
Sometimes.
All the time. And I like to say that because I've had this brewing, so I'm going to say it because I want to say it.
Please do.
That even the scriptures are brilliant, but they're missing primer. Have you seen that movie Contact with Jodie Foster?
No.
There was this brilliant metaphor for this. Yeah, they got this message from out of space somewhere from some star that how to build this machine that's going to show them what God is, right? And so they get these tons of data, but they're missing the primer. And they're trying to put it together, and they can't. And there's one clever little guy goes, it's like, well... And she goes, and she was super intuitive, like so beautiful, Jodie Foster in that movie. Oh, my God. And she goes, oh, my God, you found the primer. He goes, mm-hmm. And then he shows, like, watch, every corner has this little thing. And if you put that together and you turn it like this, you can read all the data. Right? Same thing with the Bible. There's a primer, and I'm going to reveal it.
Yes.
And a primer, can you look at the word primer, it means prime. It's just like who? Me. Yeah? So here we go. This will just clarify everything for good, I think. And if not, please crucify me because...
Well, just don't listen.
Man, please listen because I think it's so good. Yeah. So, it's a book of you. Yeah. All the characters in that book live in you as you.
Yeah.
Jesus is your heart. Virgin Mary is your feelings, particularly the purest feelings that are in you. Herod is your ego that wants to kill anything that looks like Christ or God, right? Because it's got like the human law, you know. You have, like, say, Moses, you know, who comes with his commandments, which are like laws of some kind. If you look at your laws that you have, men should, women should, men shouldn't, women shouldn't. We have these laws in us, so that's the Moses in us, creating structures. And if we break those structures, we suffer guilt. We feel guilty that we broke them, but we forgot we made those structures. So all these different characters, the 12 disciples are qualities in me. If I don't have those, there's no way Christ can become a sustained love of awareness. Can you see? With that, have a look at the book and it's going to be rewritten. And you no longer have to chase what happened 2,000 years ago and why was it like this and why was it like that. You will see that every time you in your Herod, you crucify yourself. It wasn't about Jesus. It was you crucifying your own inner Christ, right? So just suddenly it all makes sense, doesn't it?
It's amazing.
And you go like, oh my God. So resurrection is me allowing this God quality inside to guide me, which is like they call the Holy Spirit, which is really, again, the word is spirit of wholeness. Yeah, when you say Holy Spirit, you go like, what the fuck am I talking to, right? But when you go spirit of wholeness, like,
guide me
within me, where from? So get in touch with this Holy Spirit in you. Don't listen to me either. Just get in touch with that and tune yourself to hear it. So it guides you into your resurrection. I am the resurrection and the life. Who? I. Jesus didn't say, follow me. He said, follow my ways. So here is an example. It says, I am the light of the world. So now everybody thinks that's Jesus and we have to follow him because he's the one, because he's the Holy Son of God. No. He said, say it. Say it. Who?
I am the light of the world.
Absolutely. Yes, you are. That's how the word Yeshua came out.
Yes, you are. Devil, Yeshua.
Oh my God. You gotta have fun with this. Oh my God, it's all so funny at the end.
But it's so beautiful, like really bringing this, I think for me, because I came into a different relationship to God through plant medicine.
Nice.
Which really was a profoundly somatic experience, like profound. Because I was brought up Italian Catholic. And one of the one of the things, I suppose, having that devotional aspect in my life, having that questioning or having that turning towards God, but it was a very fear-based relationship I had. And then going deeply into Buddhism, I rejected my Catholic Christian upbringing. And, you know, listening, if I ever had to go to church with my parents for Christmas or something as an older person, there was very few times I had the kind of scriptures spoken in a way that lit me up. You know, they were kind of like really transmitted in a very fear-based, human-based, kind of very traditional way. And I remember reading Thich Nhat Hanh's Living Buddha, Living Christ, and the way that he brought Christianity like more into the mystic realms. I've loved the mystic teachers, you know, Meister Eckhart, and like, you know, accessing the kind of, that was really beautiful. But for me, it was when I experienced, you know, my journeys with ayahuasca were, I had this experience, and because I'm so somatic, like so in my body, that, you know, initially there was just, you know, all this very beautiful, like the sacred geometry.
Yeah.
So you kind of enter that, you know, it's absolutely stunning, incredible, transporting, very like in the presence of sacredness. There's one thing to kind of like see it, but when my body became that, like so completely this extraordinary experience of not only oneness, but this like fabric, this like sacred fabric of my being, like really totally embodied somatic. And like to be washed in that for hours, like only in that, with no like, you know, story, no ancestral, no beings, no nothing. There's just this like whole-bodied letting go of my physical form and entering into these dimensions. And it wasn't just once, it was like every single time I journeyed with that medicine, it took me into this experience that was, it was such a profound experience of God, like without any doubt. And it was nothing of that image from my childhood, nothing of that teaching. There was just this experience of oneness, but experience of this incredible fabric of being that becomes everything and nothing. And it was so profound. And then the teachings of any like Christian teachings or the word God, or like even when you express this as this is a map of your inner world. This is not some external force. Like if you use the teachings and relate that to your inner experience, then this opens up. Like there's no metaphor that quite matches it. That's what my experience has been. Like with my Christian mystic friends, when you bring those teachings to life and you relate it to this inner world, like I am literally in awe. Like even when you're speaking, like I could be quiet for the whole rest of this podcast and just listen to you, like bring that to life in a way that we can feel it, you know, like this kind of like that resurrection, or like the Virgin Mary, like this. Just,
that is, oh my God.
When you first said that to me, like the purest feeling, because we have such resistance to feeling. And when we start to make space for and allow feelings like to show themselves or reveal themselves, and we can touch a feeling that we've never, ever been able to stay present to before. Like it can move through us and we can like allow it to show itself.
Beautiful.
You know, when you said to me, like, oh yeah, you know, the Virgin Mary, like this virgin feeling, never, ever, 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 ever been felt before, and that is like the birth of creation. Like, I was floored, you know. And if you've got the whole Mary, Jesus kind of block there, not allowing you to hear that, you know.
Yeah, like it took you a while because I said it a few times, but there was a particular time when you went like, oh my God. Right.
Like I heard it back on another, you'd mentioned it on a podcast and it didn't land, but that day where you were kind of like, where you spoke it and we went down to like, because I know in my body when I feel a feeling that I've never been able to feel before, it illuminates all my wrong perception, you know, and not only does it reveal my misperceptions, the experience as it moves through my body is, I mean, I've got tears. It's just like this, like it's so pure, it's so soothing, healing, you know, and it's, yeah.
I can see how you would have to struggle here with finding words. And it just comes back to that, the Tao that can be told is not an eternal Tao. There's like no words that can describe it. You can point to it. My son came up with this whole thing. Like, you know, that's just a finger pointing at the moon. And so you're like going to the moon, and if even you miss it, man, there's all these stars.
Oh, did he say that?
14-year-old kid, like,
wow.
If you miss it, so what? That's
so beautiful.
Whole thing to explore, and I can see how like it's an unspeakable love comes. Now for me, but there's one thing: you can't speak it, but you can ooze it. You can transmit it by this inner certainty that's like undoubtedly so, like you know it because you feel it. It's in your body, like it's visceral. Your heart is exploding. You're like being born right now, you know, from that virgin moment of that realization, right? And the mind awakens and is present for it. It doesn't mentalize it. I'm trying to name it or whatever. It just goes, oh, yeah. It's like becomes present for it. More, it stays just present and not trying to fit its whole concept into it. That's why it's like emptying all the ideas of what God is was my practice. I dug out every single idea about God and didn't allow it to be put aside. And when my cup was empty, my God, yeah. Oh gosh, this feels so good.
For me, listening to you or listening to other like really dear friends who are like Christian mystics, because I'm so in my feeling body, it puts words to experience. That's what I mean by it's a metaphor that's beyond anything that I can, like when you take all that loading off it, all that way that we've been conditioned into hearing this metaphor, you know, or this, oh my God, this map, I don't know what you want to call it, but for me, like it allows something to move in me, or when you speak it, there is this experience in me of like, I just want to cry, you know, just because it's like so different to what we're taught. But it's just like, oh my God, it's magnificent as an inner map. Like brings specificity, or it brings into awareness things that are just like so difficult to name.
Yeah. You know, when I also had one ayahuasca trip in my life, some 20 years ago, and it was equally like when you're talking about what happened. I was like, yeah. My first thing was, I'm gonna get to this place without medicine.
Absolutely.
And that was such a beautiful journey when suddenly, just in my meditation, or for me, actually, a lot. This is an interesting subject to go into because we're talking about feeling realms, right? I had the most profound revelations of my life. Most of the time came out of rage. Like I was so frustrated with my existence and with my incapacity to figure it out, like seek and do not find kind of thing, like seeking like crazy, and like, why don't I have it? At that point, I just went, God, like, Jesus, whoever gonna hear me, like, what the, yeah.
Sure.
It's that rage. And then I realized it's in the Bible, like, ask with all your might and all your strength and all your will and all your power.
Ask.
Don't ask like, dear God, provide me with this shit and that shit, you know? No.
It's when you're broken.
When you go, God, and God, like, that's like the password. He's like, you know, like, speak to me. Don't beg me for shit. Like, speak to me. Speak with all my, it's like my mind is involved, my will is involved, my heart is involved, my body is embodying that prayer all the way to my toes. So it's not like heady experience, but it's like, again, whole integrated Holy Spirit, like spirit of wholeness, integration, fully aligned for one single thing at the moment. You know, there's only, at the end, there's only one thought, one feeling, one love, and one form. It's just like that's a table, that's a mic stand, that's a wall. They all form. They're all one thing. They form, appearing like many, but it's just form, nothing else. So there is only one form.
Yeah.
There is one feeling. There's one thought. When we stop this crazy thinking that's going on, that's not real thoughts. The things that goes in our head, that's not who we are. Those are the programs, that's the matrix. When you see it, you stop for a sec, and you go like, and you become present instead of thinking. So there's one thought, pure presence, like only one simple desire. It's like, God. And we cease to speak, like, where are you, eh? We cease to speak, God. There's one idea. The feeling comes in one feeling, not many feelings. If you're like, I'm feeling this and this and this and this, just that's like false feelings, actually. You know, what I call the emotional body, like, or ego's feeling realm, right? But the real feeling is always, in my books, is always only one at a time.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So
completely.
one thought, one feeling, those two electromagnetic fields, the magnetics birthing this moment, the spirit, the light, the mind is dropping one idea of wholeness. And the will, which already holds this wholeness, gives it a manifestation. That birth is the one love heart, because you are in full alignment
with what is.
With what is real. Because there's only one, and you feel, and you go like, oh my God, I love this. Yeah. You can't even say it because the love is so overwhelming, right? Yeah. And then the body, like a learning device, begins to show us what that looks like in physical, in one form. Yeah, it means you got an elevated self of form. You're vibrating like you own something, and you're not on anything. You simply, you know, totally high or totally low on God. Doesn't matter which way you go, because all way is all encompassing, which has no opposite. This is me like speaking my deepest joy. You know.
Yeah, look, I'm totally with you. That like one feeling, dropping the story, like one of my little maps. You know, I have different like ways to disidentify from the thought of what we're thinking, or the thought of what we think is happening, or, you know, from the state that we are in. And I know that when I'm working with people, like, you know, I've got these kind of maps of like, okay, you can just put it into one of these 5 categories. Like, let's just start with that little map, right? What you're in, just is it either desire, aversion, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, or doubt, right? And we can get so fixated on what is it exactly that I'm in. You know, we can just get, you know, all this complexity, what attachment style am I in, what story, or blah, blah, blah. And for me, it's just like, just roughly get yourself in one of those and then drop down into what is that roughly. So let's just say I'm in something and it's kind of infused with a feeling like I've done something wrong, right? Which is one of my absolute favourites in this system. And so if I just kind of go, oh yeah, that's just doubt, right? And that kind of stops all the mind chatter. It stops all the story of what I'm thinking is happening, or I could go around in circles and crucify myself. Or I kind of go, okay, that's doubt. And then I come down into like, so what does doubt feel like? Right? Yeah. And to me, like, you know, you enter it through rage, right? Like you're kind of like, oh my God, like mine comes through like this much more of a like worthlessness, you know, like worthlessness, like completely and totally unworthy to be here in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And when that is happening in my body, the intensity of that experience is so full on, like it's like my heart is being kind of ripped out of my body, and usually in the middle of the night, and usually like it's just like I can hardly breathe. And when I'm in this, you know, my first thing is like, I fucking hate feelings so much.
Beautiful.
I just hate them. I can't believe I'm such a feeler. You know, that's my initial like, oh my God, here we go again. You know, there's just this resistance. And if I come out of the story and I start to make space for, I have to start to soothe that first. I actually have to kind of like hum and rock, but like I'm not raging at God like you were raging.
I do.
Yeah,
I fucking rage.
You like rage at God.
I love my rage. Like my rage is like my lifeline.
Your rage is like one of your doorways. Like mine is like this prisoner in. Like I'm in the kind of dungeons of existence, and it feels like I am completely alone, and my aloneness is a result of my unworthiness, you know, and the feeling is so intense. So for me, like to not be pulled into the story of that, just to kind of like, okay, how can I make space for this feeling? Like I need to kind of like soothe it, hum it, like let it ungrip a bit. And then I'm kind of, you know, so my entry point would be, okay, this is doubt. It helps me drop my story. And then I'm being with this vibration that most of me is just like, oh my God, we cannot digest that. Like we're going to be pulled into this hell realm.
I love hell realm.
Yeah, look, I love it too, but there's a big part of me as I'm in the furnace that is resisting it. And then to kind of like soothe and hum and soothe and hum and soothe and hum. And then I can start to access God, you know, or I can start to access space. I can start to access the vibration in the earth. I can start to be in the wholeness of my being rather than the fragment of my mind and a fragment of feeling that I'm pushing away. And once I start to get to that terrain and my system starts to settle and I can rest my attention into God, but in Buddhism we'd say space.
Jesus, do you?
I know.
Oh,
no, well, it's just this kind of, like, it's this way that, you know, one of the things for me, like the tantric practices were amazing, but there was this lack of heart There was this lack of God. There was this lack of devotion in that kind of like surrendering way. So for me, I am resting into the hum and vibration of my being, but in my heart, I am resting into God. Like I am resting into the arms of existence. You know, that's God for me is everything, and I belong to everything. And when I've gone into a fragment, it is so painful. It's just excruciating, and some part of me really resists that. But when I can, you know, for me there's always this kind of like remembering. It's like I remember, I feel for, I rest into, and kind of in a way of like surrendering to God. That's my journey. My journey is I feel for, I remember, I rest into, I breathe with God, with that space that isn't this contraction that says, you do not belong here, you know, or you're not worthy. And slowly, as I vibrate with earth, with existence, and my whole system starts to settle, and I start to feel that magnetic quality of earth, of God, of my essence, of my being, when I can breathe with that, when I can breathe with her, when I can breathe with God.
That's the thing, you know, like that. This is where I love this, the mother. Without her, like without the Virgin Mary, right? There's no Jesus, there's no Christ consciousness, there's no love. Just to cut it out of the Christian talk, right?
Empty.
It's empty. So there has to be this quality that's pure feeling. And feeling is just such a like unknown entity on earth at this point.
We're so scared of it.
So terrified. Everyone's like totally terrified of feeling. Yeah. And so now we are learning to acknowledge that we are terrified.
Yeah.
And it's saying, God, now freaking help me.
Yeah.
Now I need the Holy Spirit. I am in the pit of it all. It's like, now show me the way out because I don't know it.
Yes.
I don't have a map. I don't have anything. Just like, I've tried everything. Thank you very much. Actually, my most profound awakening happened. I was reading this little book and it said something like, resign. Like a voice of Jesus, let's say, says, resign as your own teacher. Accept me as your teacher because I will show you the truth. And he goes, have no shame in this. You have tried in countless ways, and you can still try again, but you will not succeed. So you cannot undo mind with the mind.
You can't undo mind with the mind.
And in that moment, I closed this book. I tell you what, and this presence like virtually walked into the room and popped that mind bubble. Because you can't do it. It says, and I went like, okay, I can't do any of this. I tried in countless ways for sure, and I did not succeed. And he says, and you can try again, but you will not succeed. And I'm going like, wow, this is some even like a logic told me like, there's no way I can do this without some help. And then it's this presence came in like, pop my bubble. And I virtually like in a blink of an eye, I opened my eyes and everything was different. Everything was different. My friend came about an hour later. He goes, Cole, are you on drugs? I said, I don't know. Something just happened. It's just unbelievable. And then for like 40 days, I was in this. It was like, you know, actually the NDE people, and when they're actually the most authentic. When I listen to them, I was like, guys, that's authentic. But they had to be knocked out of their brain. I had that same experience without being knocked out. And it wasn't like I had to come back. I was in it for 40 days. And the education that comes from that experience of pure unity has virtually And, let me tell you one more thing. There's like so much shit was coming up. But you know what? I wasn't stopping it.
Yeah.
It's going to pass through me. Pass through me. I'm not stopping you. Come on. Come on. Everything I ever placed into my feeling, everything I ever denied, it's stored in there. And it all began to rise.
Yeah.
Talk about Kundalini rising. My God, it was like this cauldron or column of wide energy going from the bottom, like from Earth, and right through me with most amazing light and the darkest stuff I could even dream of. But I didn't have this stopper.
Resistance.
I didn't have this. I wasn't processing anything. I was like, come. All of it, just come, kill me. I don't care. Whatever this is, I want this to pass through. And so it took 40 days.
So that's really beautiful, this thing of like the dropping the resistance to the experience. You know?
That's it.
Like really, I mean, when I'm in those states, I mean, some part of me, it's an intense experience, right? But there's this insane humility that comes with it. Like there's this humanness, there's this humility, there's this like, oh my God, I'm just going to drop everything because I don't know. And there is this experience of like, there's some part of my body that's fighting it. Some part of this encoding that's scared of this feeling. And for me, like learning, when I was doing plant medicine, I was deeply immersed in Tibetan practice, somatic practice. So this learning to inhabit the earth, like learning to inhabit my subtle body, every drop of the universe and making space, like actually learning to make space for all the feelings that we're terrified to feel. So there was a training in this body to open. And for me, like there is still like when it grips so intensely, like it's a bit like, whoa, fuck, here we go. And part of me that goes, oh my God, I hate being such a feeler. But when there's something in these experiences that I'm resisting, the big ones that come, that some part of me knows it has to traverse this. It knows that it has to enter this, and there is a surrender and there is a giving over to God. For me, it's not in my rage. For me, it's in this kind of like, it feels like, kind of, what's that Mary Oliver poem, the one where you don't have to drag your knees across the desert. So, it kind of takes me to this like, and then I surrender, and then I start to experience the light. Then I start to experience the space, and then I can start to let this feeling move through.
Amazing. And
it is profound. It's a profound experience to start to let the feelings that are terrifying you to move through your being, and that trust that this journey can be traversed, or that resting more and more into God, that's really that's what I end up resting into, and then that shows me the way.
But just like I said in the first podcast, like there's 8 billion ways to God, and we all have our own. We just have to find it, and then for me it was like the next thing was like, what is my gift and how I'm gonna give it, make that my mission, so it's so simple. It's like the transformation is just the beginning. I think awakening is just the beginning to a brand new world. That's like when I sort of like drop into this, what we call the kingdom of heaven, right? That's another really cool line from Jesus.
There's a really,
he said, hey guys, kingdom of heaven is within. It's also trying to tell you that my kingdom is not of this world. Not of the structure. What he meant is you can't fit this into a structure. That's all he was saying. What do? Well, they nail him. But he also said,
they nailed him too.
It's like, hey guys, don't do that. Don't go out there and tell everybody until you're fully accomplished.
Yeah.
When you accomplish, you're invulnerable.
Yeah.
Like, man, you can throw spears at me and I'll be just giggling at it because go for it. Nail me to the cross. Like, what's new? Yeah? So I said, it's not of this world. And when we have these experiences, we can't compare it to anything of this world. And yet,
It's so not of this world.
it's not of this world. And yet, it turns this world magnificent. Like, that's the whole idea. Like, seek ye first the kingdom. Seek ye first the truth. You know, let your mind be corrected by this divine spark in me, not by my head or my mind. And let me be resurrected. I didn't do the resurrection. The resurrection occurred. It's an occurrence. And then, like, you never see this world the same again.
Why is it so hard to convey that? Like, it's amazing, isn't it? Because as you're speaking that, like, I just drop into this. Like, I just want to be quiet and listen. There's something about, for me, when you bring that Christian term, like the kingdom of heaven is within, right?
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
Absolutely is.
It's so within us, right?
And let me tell you, you know, there's this idea, the kingdom of, it's above. It's for me,
below.
It's like so deep. It's like we have these feelings, we have like the emotions, then we have feelings, then we have like the imprints, and there's just like a crust. And then you just, one day, and that, a lot of people get stopped by like, oh my God, I'm terrified of this. Oh my God, I'm terrified of this. Because you know what? They know the light is behind it. And they're more terrified of the light than of this darkness. This is my experience. Like, when I went through these layers of hatred and disgust and name it, like, give me the worst names that are out there.
Terror,
all of it, like the terror that shakes you, like you virtually your teeth are going clack, 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 you know, like you're terrified. You're like, and you know, I know I'm going to God. I know I'm going through just like this portal,
joy,
and then you enter and the way I see it, you're like, and there is the gate, and you know what? You can't walk through that gate, but you are taken. You're taken. Like, your readiness, you come through this thing, the temptation of thinking this is all real and I need to be scared. You come through that and you're like, oh no, if there is truth, I'd rather die than live a lie, you know. So I went through it, and there's the kingdom right there. And like, my jaw dropped for 40 days. I was like,
that's a nice stabilization.
What is this?
Yeah, wow.
And then it begins to reveal itself effortlessly. There's nothing I need to do. I need to do nothing. Actually, the minute I start doing something, that's exactly where I lose it.
Yeah.
I go into this effortless state of stepping back and letting the kingdom lead the way. My God, you know. Then I can say God and I don't feel, you know. But I'm talking this mother principle is the key. It was really, for me, the key. Because I had an awakening, like upstairs, you know, like my mind popped. And only then I realized I need to look down, and then I found this, you know, mother, until I found the virgin mother, the purest feeling. The one can never be destroyed. It can never sin. It can never do anything wrong. It's just pure. And it's in us. And it's available. It's downstairs.
And we have to go through all those layers of perception of what we think they are.
Yes. So if you like take a metaphor of an ocean, you know, like here is the wave of grief and here is a wave of thing, and then we get caught up in those waves. You're still on the surface. But dive in. And underneath, none of that is. You just keep going, and deeper you go, the more pressure there is. But after a while, you get used to the pressure.
Oh, yeah.
And you exactly see
the magnetic field.
Now we're talking about the passion. You see, And now it's intense and there is shark and there is darkness, and you go like, wow, this is the darkness that receives the light, and then you see what's there, and it reveals to you the new you that you could have never figured out with your mind, you know. Oh my God. Oh, I feel so complete. Yeah.
I love hanging out in the depths. It's just so beautiful and quiet, so spacious, so magnetic.
Yeah.
And it just makes room for everything.
And you find that everything makes sense there.
Everything makes sense there.
And that's the peace that passes all the understanding. It's like you ask for anything and your answer is right there, like it's pouring out at you. If you can handle it, if you're used to the depth and if you're used to the pressure and you're at home there.
So beautiful. It takes a little while to get used to that depth and pressure.
Yeah.
And there is something here, like this is for me, like when you say there is one feeling, right? When you come down, all the emotion, like there's like a gazillion emotions and there's a gazillion stories and there's a gazillion things of what happened in your life and what went wrong and what you need to do. And then you come down and you start to be with a few, and then it starts to, and then once you enter into that depth, once you enter into the depths of the ocean and you reside in the mother, or you reside in God, or you reside in that spaciousness, then the feeling becomes one. And for me, there's a density of that feeling that is undigested, or that is, but when I'm down at this depth, I'm not focused on the fragment. I'm not focused on resolving it. I'm not focused on fixing it. I'm not looking at it. I rest into God. I rest into the depths, into that magnet. Not only do I rest into it, I drink from it.
Yeah.
I just breathe with this life force that is love, that is, oh my God, it's just so, it's so restorative, and every part of me can actually let go, and then I'm in the presence of, like, the feeling that as yet, I'm still relating to that feeling, but I'm not looking at it, but it's one vibration.
Exactly, because you see all these little bits and pieces that you just mentioned, they're just like many appear. There's actually just one appearing as many, but still all encompassing. Just like I told you about the form, like there's a table, there's a wall, but they all just one form. They all material. So all the feelings appear like millions of them, and feelings and emotions and...
My God, it's so noisy if you follow all of them. Like, it's so intense and noisy and complex.
You know what I do with it? I just go, I resurrect them. I grab the worst feeling, whatever it is, inadequacy. I love feeling inadequate. See? It's like now... You have no hook. You can't hook me into anything because I'm like, I'm totally inadequate.
But you follow that path. Like, okay, so let's just take that. Here is inadequacy. You're also used to you know, initially you feel inadequacy, and the system kind of normally would move against that. You know, it doesn't want to feel that. It says to it, no, don't go down that path, you know. But like, you know, I know from our conversations, we kind of enter it or enter into the space or welcome it, allow it. And then once it becomes that one feeling,
exactly.
then, oh my God, then I don't even know what we're in, but it's a completely different dimension of God. And it's really like the nourishment, the being, because it's the only thing that is present. And there isn't noise, there's this stability. Like my mind doesn't even, like it's got no hope of getting involved because it's so deep and down and vibrational and being with one feeling that is a relief to be with it.
Yeah.
But that journey down is like it takes a bit of training.
It does.
And
that's true.
It's a training, and you've got your particular way of going down. I've got my particular way of going down, and we both help other people find their way of going down. But it is like, but once you're there, oh my God.
It's almost like at one point I like cracked the code. I realized if I actually 100% fully accept any feeling in me, then I can crack every feeling that arises, you know, like, oh, I learned a mechanism how to go like, let me be that. You know, I have this saying like I'm good, bad, ugly, and magnificent, right? Like I have all of it in me.
Yes.
I remember once I was running a men's group and I was going like, hey guys, let's incarnate Shiva. And everyone's like freaking erect and just gorgeous. Like all the men turn into these magnificent beings. It's like, what if you just allowed yourself to be Buddha? And you could see like if like everyone's belly just went out and they just kind of like collapsed a little bit into this joyous smile, right? And then I had this mad idea. So like, what if we allow ourselves to incarnate Hitler? And there was this shock in the room. But you know what? I've seen the most magnificent shapeshift I've ever encountered in a men's group. The men look so beautiful because that's the least...
That's the dark.
That's the darkest of the darkest that you never want to show that you might be incarnating. Yeah. You know, like one of my scriptures says, you know, like you are Luciferian to the most minute detail. We have this killer in us. Yes, and it's everywhere. It's ingrained. It's in your bone marrow. It's everywhere. And if one has to become it to undo it. And so seeing this in the men's group was a revelation for me. I just like, wow, this was the most magnificent, most holy looking faces I've ever seen. Like virtually I saw like...
Because it's so new.
So new, but it's also like the least, most hidden. The most hidden aspect of us.
It's the most hidden, but it reminds me of when we were playing around with those words, right? The harder the word, the more magnificent the feeling.
Yes.
Because there is something about those feelings, we're so terrified to feel them that they're actually pockets of existence that are unlived. Like like we resist them, we brace against them, we push them away, we judge them, everything we do, but we don't allow that feeling to move through us. So when a whole pocket of experience starts to become porous and we start to be able to feel this thing that we have spent our lives running from.
Yes.
And when that moves through our being, it's so pure. And it's that virgin feeling. And it's like...
Because we give it a space to fully express itself. It's no longer sitting in the darkness. It comes and it releases, and it's you see the light of it. You know, like you actually see the magnificence behind every single. There's no bad feeling. There's no such thing as a bad feeling.
Yeah, there's nothing outside of God.
There's nothing outside of me either.
Out of existence. There's nothing outside. You know what I mean? We don't fall out of
that's
existence.
it. Yeah.
But there's all these little pockets.
Oh my God. Well, shall we bring this to a close?
I think we shall.
This
we
was
shall.
wild drive or wild ride.
Wild ride.
Yeah, wild ride. Beautiful, thank you, Lorella.
That was really beautiful.
This was really good. It was kind of like a scary thing for a moment, like, ooh, we're gonna talk God.
Oh man, I would be so happy to spend, little pieces. I want to invite you because I enjoy them, but like that thing of like, feeling the virgin feelings and then the birth of creation, or like the kingdom of God is within you, like bringing those things to life as a map of the inner world. Oh my God. So darling, whenever.
Yeah, and I really want to say I hardly read that book, but
Oh, well, you've read it in so many different forms.
Yes,
though.
I just had so many different ways of looking at it. They just brought up this like, oh my God, actually, all we require is the primer, and stop seeing it out there, like what the others do wrong, but just go like, like love it. In the course of love, it goes, only you can be accomplished. Be about your Father's business, right? Like only I can make. I stopped kind of like trying to change the world.
Yeah.
I changed myself, and suddenly I have different beings coming to my. I have beings that no longer resist my godlike nature. Like I see it in everyone, and we begin to more like unify together. We enter into this unifying film. We camp there. Like, hey, let's pitch a tent here and make a fire and celebrate the existence. Yeah. Beautiful. All right, let's wrap it up.
That was beautiful.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Great.
Really, really.
Well, at least we liked it.
We did. It's like so unfortunate that there's such a big resistance to it, because it's an exquisite.
It lacks understanding,
languaging.
It's like, most of the time it's like not understood, and not understanding something, it's scary. But once it's understood, when it's actually beginning to move and reveal itself, you're just like, oh my God, what was I scared of?
Maybe we can play with that. Maybe we can play with like little phrases or little things that are really kind of feel solid and ugly, and bring them to life a bit somatically through our own journey. Anyway, we can talk about that later. But
that could be in the next podcast.
Yeah. So, thank you.
Thank you.